I'd like to extend a very warm welcome or welcome back to the channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Like I always say, the goal is 50,000 this year and your support would be greatly appreciated. If there's one aircraft that can equally be difficult yet somehow easy to replace, it's the world's largest passenger plane, the Airbus A380. This is a mammoth aircraft that has cemented itself as a super jumbo, but is equally an aircraft that at times airlines have put forward more questions rather than say necessarily answers, which isn't always a good thing. So how do you go about replacing an aircraft that is so significant that no next generation aircraft could really adequately replace? Many would look at an aircraft such as maybe the 777X as a prospective aircraft that can fulfill some of the roles that we've seen undertaken with aircraft such as the A380, but also maybe even the 747. By no means is it a like-for-like replacement, but it is undoubtedly an aircraft that'll offer customers something similar while addressing some of those key concerns outlined with a plane like the A380. That being what concerns exactly? Well, in some cases, the significant amount of capacity that the A380 brought did mean that several airlines that may have been interested ultimately didn't commit to this plane because they viewed it as too risky. Maybe they didn't have an optimal route for deployment. Very generally, their business model didn't suit such a large aircraft. While some of these similar concerns can certainly be felt for the 777X, and this is why some airlines have not committed to the aircraft yet, it will at least address concerns that were present around facilities for the 380. So the A380's sheer scale did result in multi-million-dollar investments into airports worldwide that obviously wanted to accommodate the airliner. While the 777X has a pretty big wingspan, the positives of the aircraft come in the form of the folding wingtips. Basically, when the aircraft lands, the wingtips go up. This allows it to slot into taxiways and gates while enhancing flight efficiency. But most of all, for airports that are wanting to accommodate this aircraft, they don't need to massively renovate, say, gates or taxiways in anticipation for its arrival. There are also concerns that a requirement for a plane like the A380 or maybe the 777X doesn't exist anymore, and customers are happy with the middle ground A350, 900 or even the 787. Interestingly, analysts have shared their view that the 777X isn't a quad-engine plane. I know, groundbreaking, but just wait. Further to what I was saying, basically their view is the 777X addresses key concerns that the Super Jumbo had. But the thing is, it doesn't have 4 engines. And what does 4 engines bring? Well, obviously a lot of power, but higher expenses, difficulties when it comes to maintenance, and much more. So the 777X is a less expensive option, but it still has solid capacity levels. Therefore, for some companies that believed the A380 to be too big of a jump, the 777X may just be that perfect option. The A350-1000's success has also been something that we've witnessed over several years now. Boeing wants an alternative in the market to the Dash 1000 that it can consider a next-generation aircraft. The classic 777 isn't going to stack up for decades to come, but the 777X can be viewed as an adequate plane to compete with the Dash 1000. Of course, to a certain extent, Airbus has their advantages with the series already well and truly established, and therefore it can be viewed maybe for some airlines as a safer option with the assurances that it will arrive and it is proven. However, in some cases, the 777X does offer more to airlines. I know it's hard, but don't also forget that the 777X will also one day be a proven aircraft that has entered service. That feels like it will be a long time away, but we're inching closer. Trust me on that. The 777X also offers customers a new era of long-haul travel, and while it has had certification difficulties, like I touched on, and therefore subsequent delays, it is clear at least what it brings. Leading airlines have already committed to the aircraft, and while orders at times have lacked, there will equally be other prospective customers that'll be awaiting the 777X's EIS, now that is the entry into service, to be a better judge of its performance and how it works. Additionally, for some customers, the 777-300ER is actually not too much of an aging aircraft, so therefore, a replacement is not on the cards just yet. There will ultimately be a time, but the 777X's release, or should I say launch in the early 2010s, came not too long after many airlines were still taking delivery of the older 777s. These are not at the end of life cycle, and therefore if airlines don't believe an order is necessary just yet, they won't make it. Having now covered some of the ins and outs of replacing the A380 with the 777X and the pros and cons associated with some competition in the sector, it's pretty important to examine just how airlines are going about replacing the A380. There's no better evidence than examples from airlines themselves. For the airlines that have phased the aircraft out or are planning to, their replacement plans have significantly differed. Why? Well, because some airlines that ordered the A380 could very readily admit to you that this was a mistake, and as business models alongside demand and industry trends have shifted, these airlines do not require a plane of that size, and therefore, yes, back to what I was saying, the A350-900 or the 787 is generally considered as an adequate long-term option. But if you're Qatar Airways, you're still looking for a high-capacity aircraft, and for them, that's been in the form of the 777X. 2019 reports that I would love to explore further in its own video identified that Qatar viewed the 777X as an ideal replacement for the A380. However, delays with the EIS for the series meant that a more heavy and longer also than ideal reliance on the A380 was required. Qantas will be another one of the last operators of the aircraft, and while their retirement of the world's largest passenger plane will still be some time away, they're already planning for this. The A350-1000 is to be the successor to the A380, with its high capacity and twin-engine nature seen as the optimal selection for the long term, with these aircraft also complementing the A350-1000s that are being purposefully built for Project Sunrise flights. But you may think the A350-1000 isn't the 777X. Bang on, you'd be correct. So does that throw out this whole entire video? Not necessarily, in fact it actually proves a point. The A350-1000 and the 777X are seen as direct competitors in more ways than one, and therefore, when an airline is looking for an A380 replacement, your manufacturers will directly pitch the two aircraft to that respective customer. It is then down to the airline to select which aircraft it believes is best for the future, the A350-1000 or the 777X. Qatar and Qantas's situations do differ greatly, but for the time being, the 777X, yes, it's considered a replacement for some airlines, depending on their circumstances. But it's over to you. How do you believe is the best way to replace an Airbus A380? Or do you believe it is down to the respective airline's business model and their long-term vision, whether that is related to growth, a high-capacity airliner, or trying to streamline their fleet into just a couple of long-haul options? You can let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. Do take care and do also be safe. I will see you same place, not necessarily same time like I normally say, but in a couple of days for your latest industry analysis. And we'll fly.